Hey there, and welcome back to Hold and Modify, YouTube's most poorly produced, underproduced Amiga channel. And today we are going to be looking at deluxe video from Electronic. No, we're not looking at deluxe video from Electronic Arts. We're looking at PiMiga 3. Yes, Chris Edwards from Chris Edwards Restoration has released the new version of PiMiga 3. He has a great video on how to set it up, all the things it can do. I will link that below. I'm sure you've probably already watched it. What I wanted to cover is the Lightwave aspect of it. As you know, my channel, I'm the Lightwave guy in the Amiga world, apparently, and I did actually help Chris work out some bugs with the Lightwave configuration on this latest version of PiMiga 3, and it seems to be working very well. Folks are installing it, updating it, and they're just jumping right into Lightwave. They're not having any issues, and that is awesome. So why am I making this video specific to Lightwave and PiMiga? If it's working great for everybody, am I trying to bore everyone with my own take on it? Yes! No, I'm telling you what I do slightly differently from the default config of PiMiga. All right, it involves doing some certain things. Now, the reason I do this is because I'm one of those weirdos that wants to run Lightwave in its native Amiga mode, no RTG, so that I'm seeing all of the classic screen modes, classic Ham 8, and Lightwave and Modeler as it was. So if I go over here and I go to Lightwave3D, this is going to look pretty different from yours. So I'm going to go ahead and launch it. And right now, the first thing you notice on the 16:9 monitor, it's not taking up the screen. It's either not going full 16:9, or it's not going 4:3 or 5:4. So what's the deal? Well, this is one of the reasons why I do this, because when you come up here, let's load up a scene. And we'll do something classic like space, and we'll do space fighters. And we're not going to build this whole thing, but we'll go ahead and say make preview wireframe, and we'll go ahead and let this chew out some frames. Now, in the default PiMiga 3 config, you may actually be able to see this wireframe building, or you may not. It kind of depends. It can be a little weird. One of the things, though, that's not going to work in the default PiMiga 3 config for Lightwave is when you want to go play this preview back. So if you go play preview, you're not going to get anything here, okay? It's just going to be this weird blank screen. This is really important for those of us that are, animating in Lightwave. We need this kind of feedback, and I've talked about this in other videos before. So this is one of the big reasons I changed it from the default. The other thing I changed from default, you should notice over here I've got 15 frames per second, 30 frames per second, 24. Yep, and if you go to camera over here, it says NTSC, it doesn't say PAL. So I do make these changes, and go ahead and quit Lightwave here, and I'll show you what I've done. It's nothing too terribly complicated. I will warn you, these changes are going to change the default PiMiga 3 configuration. One of the things I do is if you do left Amiga P, this is going to bring up Mode Pro. And Chris has done all of this painstaking work to get us these amazing Mode Pro settings to make all of this stuff, this amazing stuff work. I'm not going to, of course, delete this, okay? I don't want to do that because guess what? I want to use all this other stuff he's put on here, not just Lightwave. There is times where I'm like, all right, I just want to play some games, or I want to look at some videos, or do whatever else is on here. There's so much stuff on here. What I simply do is I right-click after we've launched it. I just turn off Enable Screen Promotion. See up here? It'll be on by default like that. I just come up here and turn it off, and then I just click Save. So now we've just completely turned off screen promotion. Nothing's going to screen promote. Where you go Q, if you do that, then everything's going to open up on those crappy PAL or NTSC interlace flicker screen. I'm like, that's true, that will. Although you didn't see any screen flicker in my Lightwave 3D, so how did I do that? Here, we're going to have to go into the Amaberry settings. So we'll hit Function F12, and we go down to Display. Now, one of the first things we do for my needs, as I've mentioned, is I do turn on NTSC, okay? So I check on NTSC, I then go down to Display, and I make it the following changes. I turn off Auto Crop, I max these two sliders, width and height out. Correct aspect ratio is on by default, I believe. I also turn on Remove Interlace Artifacts, and I set line mode to double, and automatically it should select double frames. This is effectively the PiMiga version of an Amiga flicker fixer, okay? And that's why my Lightwave and Modeler don't look all flickery and gross, and why any other programs you launch in high-res interlace modes won't look flickery and gross. So this is pretty cool. It's a Amiga flicker fixer. WinUAE and FSUAE have had it forever, and I'm pretty sure Amaberry has had this for quite a while too. So once you've made those two changes, yes, you're going to have to go up to configurations, make sure the default's selected, and click Save. and then you can resume. Actually, you're going to want to reboot if it's the first time you've done it. And you'll reboot, and then everything is going to be basically an NTSC. And then now when you go to Lightwave3D and you fire that up, you're not going to have a flickering interlace mess. What you are going to have, though, is it's stretched, because it is, again, it's NTSC pixels, not square pixels. So you've got wide format NTSC pixels trying to map into a square aspect panel. If you want to try it, and help yourself, if your panel, like this is a TV set, this is not a computer monitor. So here, funny thing, because this is a TV set, it has a really low pixel density compared to a computer monitor. So the pixels actually look kind of CRT soft. It's a neat effect. If you're trying to go for that really retro look, a TV set is actually pretty handy. Now, in Lightwave, the fonts were designed to work with NTSC monitors and CRT, so the fonts here are pretty big, okay? So you can read them. And of course, if you go to this beautiful workbench that Chris has made here, the fonts can be a little hard to read on a TV set with its low pixel density. So that is a negative for doing literally anything else. Trying to open up, native Amiga screens, sure, that are designed for NTSC, you get this nice readable font. So that can be a bit of an issue. But yeah, because of the built-in flicker fixer, we don't have any of those problems, and it works out really, really nice. So anyway, getting back to the aspect ratio. So if your computer monitor or TV set has the ability to switch from 16:9 to 4:3 aspect, that can help your Lightwave use. And this particular TV set does have a 4:3 switch. And let's see if we can go ahead and do something with that. Okay, we're back, and now I've activated the 4:3 switch. So now Lightwave is looking pretty skinny mini here, but is it correct? So let's go to Modeler. And one of the things I like to do is I go to Load, and then what we're going to do is just load up the Amiga ball. And if it looks mostly round, you're in good shape. So in 16:9 mode, the ball looks squished. Heavily squished. In 4:3 mode, the ball is not perfectly spherical, but it's mostly spherical. You can see it is still a bit oblong up here. So what is the deal on that? How to fix that? Well, you could try and go into the settings and back down to display and try and mess with it. The problem is the Amiga 4:3 versus 16:9, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. So it's kind of it's an issue. So if you turn off correct aspect ratio and hit resume, you're just back to where you started. You've now, even though the TV is set to 4:3, you're right back to the squished ball of 16:9. So that's not going to cut it. You kind of, I guess you need like a dynamic aspect ratio control or something to really dial that in. And I guess the only true way to dial that in would be to load up a program like this, Modeler, load up a known circular spherical object, and then adjust the aspect until the ball appears perfectly round. Then you're actually working with and creating content that's shaped the way you want it to be. Now you might be thinking, well, Q, this seems crazy. Why would you risk making your balls not round? Yeah, you can actually set Modeler. You can go to Display, and you can go to Options, and you can actually pick different screen modes for Modeler. Or more importantly, you could just use Mode Pro to put Modeler into a square aspect like 800 by 600 screen mode, and then just not have to worry about any of this. So when you're modeling, yeah, you might want to actually run in these modes where you're getting nice, circles are circles and squares are squares mode, so you know what you're making is correct. And then when you go back to layout, that's up to you if you want to mode from it or not. I really like the ability to see the animation that's happening in here. So do know that this mode isn't exactly correct either. It's going to be slightly squished. If you're on a computer monitor, again, you might have the ability to do horizontal size to stretch it back out so that you're actually staring at a more correct screen. But again, this is a television set. All it can do is 16:9 or 4:3. It has no ability for me to size the pixels or anything. So I'm kind of out of luck there. But you may have the ability to do that on your system, on your monitor. So that's it. That's Q's wacky thing he does differently from the Pi 3 config. I can look past that because I know the stuff I have is correct, so I can look past that. What are you going to do, right? If you run in RTG mode, you're guaranteed your stuff is going to be circles and your stuff is going to be squares, but you lose the ability to make animations and previews. Maybe you need to do a best of both worlds. create your assets in RTG mode, so you know everything's square and 1-to-1. And then when it's time to animate, get out of RTG mode so you have access to the preview and animation controls. I guess that's probably a better way to say it. Well, I hope this made sense to you all. It was a little bit rambly there near the end, but that's it. That's the thing I do. I mess with the main settings a little bit, and then I disable mode promotion, but I don't get rid of it. So I can easily turn it back on and everything's back to normal again. All right, I think that covers it. Thanks for watching. Enjoy PiMiga 3. It's really awesome. All right, I'm done with this video.